What is up, everybody? Carlton Flowers here with the Go Political channel, and I've got an interesting one tonight. We're going to share some footage of some crazy action going down in the Chicago suburbs, and we're going to react to this, and then I'm going to bring up several points to you, some questions that I'd like to know your opinion, some things that seem to be hideously obvious to me, but I guess it's just not so obvious to people that have been brainwashed by a certain political party. So the action is happening outside of Chicago with this ICE crackdown. There was about 550 new arrests of illegals. Okay, and these are people that are breaking the law, but we got protesters going crazy. I mean, losing their minds. For what? For standing up for criminals and illegals that are being scooped up and deported. So we're going to check out this video from the Cash Jordan channel that's got over 425,000 views just in the last couple of days. And then after we watch this madness, I'm going to come back and point out some things that are rather obvious, and then I'll pose those questions. So let's jump to this video. Here we go. That's a kind of a funny face we got there on pause from Cash Jordan. So let's watch a little bit of this and then we'll come back. We'll just play a couple minutes of it. Check out the action. Here we go.
The rioters assaulting Chicago's ICE facility don't like the welcome they're getting. Oh, shouldn't stand there. Don't stand there. Nope. Whoa. Oh, they're throwing stuff? Oh, the paintball snipers are coming into action. And look at that. They immediately disperse. All this just to stop a vehicle. Look at this guy jumping with no shirt. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, they're gonna arrest somebody? Oh yeah, someone's going to jail. Yup. He's gonna get to go inside the facility he was trying to break into. That's probably not the way he wanted to go in. He probably wanted to come out with a bunch of illegal immigrants. All right, and here he goes, off to his own personal tour of the jail he was trying to get into. And they're so angry. Oh, they say this is so unfair. Absolutely ridiculous. This party of political violence, these guys need to be stopped.
When a woman approached the fence
Watch
along with
this.
a few other protesters and started yelling at them, agents shot those demonstrators with pepper balls. Federal agents then came out of the parking lot where the woman got into a scuffle with them.
Oh.
She was thrown, and as agents crossed the street, moving protesters further away,
Okay,
that woman reached up and grabbed the mask of one of the ICE agents.
Look at that.
That's when another one put her
You
in
can't
a
do that.
headlock, and you can see on video there that she flashed.
There's the peace sign. Look at that. She's peaceful. She doesn't mean any harm. Meanwhile, her fingers were this close to the eyes of that federal agent. Frightening. And there have been several assaults on ICE agents during the last few days.
Into this facility, and this is what has been happening. So we're going to walk a little bit closer.
They come right up to the car. Watch.
Okay, that's enough of a sample there. You kind of get what's going on here. They went on to pop the tire on that van. I mean, slashing the tire. And look at these people just completely losing their minds and going nuts, going absolutely nuts against these ICE officers. So anyway, I'm just confounded. I'm just confounded because people don't consider the obvious here, all right? So the obvious question that I have after watching these people completely go ape, S-H-I-T, crazy, bat, S-H-I-T, crazy, is this. Why don't you focus on changing immigration law, okay? So if the law states that you can't come here illegally, I mean, forget the fact that we have illegals coming in here committing crimes. If there are laws on the books that prevent you from stealing, robbing, and doing other crazy things, besides the fact that you're not supposed to come here illegally, that you're supposed to apply and go through the normal procedures that are written into federal law, why are we expending all of this energy fighting against ICE agents who are upholding that law rather than talking to your politicians? Can you explain that to me, please? Now, this is what's even crazier. This doesn't make a lick of sense. The Biden administration had 4 years of control, 4 years. And so when they came in, they opened up the southern border, and we now know that they did it on purpose. They made every excuse under the sun, acting like they were trying to secure the border, but they just couldn't. And well, 20 million, 30 million people came in, but we did our best trying to stop them. All right. But all the while, it was done on purpose. Now, of course, we know the reason was so that they could increase the population in blue states so they could get more representative seats in the halls of Congress. So even if you don't have the ability to vote, if you're an illegal and you're counted in the census, which they shouldn't be, that means that they could flip more seats for the Democratic Party. So that's why they did this. But if they were so favorable towards letting everyone in the world come in here without any restriction, why did they not change the laws? Now, for the first 2 years, they had the control of the Senate and the House. So you had a clean sweep. You could have changed all the immigration laws. You could have switched it from no entry unless you come through the port of entry and abide by what the laws state, applying for, coming here with a visa or a B1 or applying for asylum, right? You had all those laws there, but they didn't change that. So now we got all these people losing their minds fighting for these illegals, but the law's still the same. So where were all of these people during the Biden administration? Where were they? Why weren't they saying anything about changing the law? So right now, how can you really complain? The law states you can't come in this way. You can't just sneak in over the border and then get a ton of free services. I mean, forget the fact that they let everybody sneak in, but they were incentivizing them. They spent, I think, upwards of $400 or $500 billion money that was given to illegals, incentivizing them to come in. We'll give you $1,500 a month for free food. We'll give you free room and board. We'll let you get a driver's license even though you can't drive a lick. We'll let you get around the business license restrictions so you could start your little food cart. They gave them every incentive that they needed, to the point where there was the guy from South America who was bragging, saying, hey, you guys got to come up to America, get you a free vacation. You get free food, you get money. They give you everything. These people in America are stupid. That guy got deported, by the way. So they incentivized them. Now we're upset because the Trump administration is enforcing the law. So rather than discussing the law that you didn't complain when the Biden administration was in power and had the ability to change it. No, we want to slash tires. We want to riot, snatch masks off of ICE agents, bully our way in and try to prevent them from deporting illegals. We don't care if they are rapists, okay? We don't care if they've committed armed robbery. We don't care if they've unalived people. We don't care if they're being snatched off the street. Well, we're against that. We're against that, right? Now, all the while, what are two of the biggest phrases that the Democrats, the radical left, has been spouting over the last few years? Well, one of them is nobody is above the law. So that works when you're talking about people that are in the other party, but it doesn't apply to you when you're attacking ICE officers, and it doesn't apply to illegals who break the law. They're above the law. So when they say nobody is above the law, they mean nobody that is not in the radical left Democratic Party. The other phrase that they kept repeating is due process. Everybody gets due process. But when illegals get their due process or their day in court and they're served with the deportation notice, well, now we're showing up at the ICE facility and popping tires and fighting against the agents after these illegals have gotten their due process. Now, due process to them means let the illegals come in and stay forever. That's due process. It doesn't mean real due process in a court of law that would allow the government to deport somebody. That ain't due process. So this is kind of crazy to me. You had the chance to change the law and you didn't. And maybe it was because the Biden administration set the example that we don't care about the laws. We only spout nobody is above the law when we are inciting political lawfare against our political enemies. We don't mean our own people. We don't mean illegals. We just mean those other guys that we don't like. You know, it's kind of similar to the whole Epstein files thing, which I'm so tired of. We got to hear it every day from the Democrats who have Trump derangement syndrome, and that's fine. You can hate them all you want. It's all right. I'm not stumping for Trump. But you're saying, release the Epstein files right now. But you didn't say a word for 4 entire years when the Biden administration was in control. What's the reason? Now, does it make sense that the Biden administration that launched a full-scale war of political lawfare against Donald Trump to get him convicted as a felon, to prevent him from getting into office again? They had the 4 lawsuits. They tried to get him jailed. They tried to take away Trump Towers. They tried to, they did pay someone to concoct a story about RAPE, even though it wasn't. The accusation was groping, and E. Jean Carroll made up the entire story. They paid her to bring that case, change the law in New York, so they could extend the statute of limitations to get him into court. So they did all those things, and he was even shot at twice. 2 attempts on his life to keep him out of office, while all the while they were saying Trump is the biggest threat to democracy that this country has ever seen. So if he's the biggest threat to democracy, right? And you're sitting on these Epstein files, and there's something in those files that could implicate him and keep him from running, why would they sit on that? But you're going to sit here today and carry on about release the Epstein files. Does that make any sense? Does it make any sense? Have any of the people spouting this off ever picked up the phone to talk to their politicians and say, I'm upset that you guys didn't handle this while we had the House, the Senate, and the office of the presidency? Do any of them say a word? No, they don't. It's because they live in a fantasy world. In a fantasy world where we don't really care about what the law says, we just have to do the opposite of what the evil dictator is doing. Now, the next podcast I'm going to do, we're going to talk about this whole dictator thing and how Trump wants to pull off martial law and take away everyone's rights. But we forgot about the martial law that was put forth during the Biden administration. And they didn't come out and say that it was martial law, but it was. They don't complain about how all of your free speech rights were taken away. I had posts taken down on Facebook in 2021, 2022, and even Facebook private messages that were blocked and deleted. But we don't talk about that. Now we have a dictatorship. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in the next podcast edition. But I want to ask you a few questions. Do you think this makes any sense to see these people violating law, attacking ICE officers because they're standing up for people that are violating the law? Does that make sense? And do you think there should have been a push to change the immigration laws while they were in power, while they had control? What do you think about, this is the last question, what do you think about the current immigration laws that have been in place for one administration after another, dating back all the way to the Clinton administration? When Bill Clinton was in office, he talked about deporting illegals. When Hillary ran the first time, she talked about making illegals learn English, making them come here legally, and charging them, giving them a fine if they dared to come into the country illegally, and then deporting them, right? We had the same immigration laws when Barack Obama was the president, when he was bragging about deporting illegals, even though he opened up the floodgates to the people from the Islamic countries, all right? The laws were not changed. So then Trump comes in the first time and everybody's in an uproar. And then Biden comes in. opens up the floodgates at the southern border, lets 30 million people come in, but he doesn't change the law. So tell me what you think about that. And then the final question, do you think there's anything in the Epstein files that would implicate Donald Trump? And if you think there are, can you please explain to me and the several other people that are wondering too, why didn't the Biden administration release those files? Apparently they get a pass. We're all full of piss and vinegar that Donald Trump won't release the Epstein files, but we don't complain that Joe Biden sat on the Epstein files while he was in power and didn't do anything. So answer those questions. I'd sure like to know. And please hit the like button, subscribe, tick the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Is going to be good. I'm going to get back to doing a daily podcast, and then we'll still work on those other videos. I still have the corruption video coming up for the city of Chicago. As a matter of fact, I did a short on it. I had the craziest comment. I could not believe it. This guy actually posted, and he called me stupid and gullible for thinking that a politician would risk their career for making deals with drug dealers to allow them to continue selling heroin and crack cocaine or whatever in their jurisdiction. He said that I'm stupid and gullible. Now, I'm in Missouri, right in between Kansas City and St. Louis, where the mafia is in power. They don't wield as much power as they did back in the 90s. But while I was working, I had firsthand experience with the mafia. And in Kansas City, we had a certain crime family that had control of the politicians. And there was a certain contract at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, that they put the pinch on. I can tell you the whole story, and I can give you the links to every article that covered it. But apparently I'm stupid for thinking that the mafia or crime families, crime bosses would make deals with politicians. Those politicians are all good people. They're all honest, and they would never do anything nefarious that would ruin their reputation. Now, this same guy told me that he thought I was great when I was doing such a good job reporting on Tiffany Henyard, but now I've just lost my mind. Now, we sat here and we watched Tiffany Henyard for 4 years pull off every bit of debauchery known to man. But now, all of a sudden, politicians are honest and they wouldn't do anything nefarious to risk their career. That's pretty wild. But go check out the shorts if you hadn't seen it. And go look at that comment. I think it's 2 shorts behind. Go check that out and post on that. Let me know what your thoughts are. So anyway, that's all I got for this one. This is Carlton, and I am out.